What we're going to do is a quick review of what we did last time, because that's going to lead us into our next set of notes. So what we did was we learned the X method last time. And what the X method was looking at a trinomial and taking our constant term, in this case is 6, and our linear term, which is 5. And we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to give us a 6, but they add up to 5. So in this case, it would be 2 and 3. So our answer was x plus 2 and x plus 3. Now, this one was easy because it had addition. If we're looking at the one right below it, we're looking for two numbers that multiply together, give us -6, and add up to a +1. Now, because the multiplying term is negative, then we know that one has to be negative and one has to be positive. Now, our addition tells us that the larger one has to be the positive one, so that would be a +3 and a -2. So that would become x minus 2 and x plus 3. And then for letter G, first what we had to do was we had to find the GCF. And so we factored out a 2, and we got x squared minus 5x plus 6. And we looked for two numbers that multiplied together, gave us 6, added up to -5, and that would be -2 and -3. So what we have is x minus 2 and x minus 3. Okay, take some time with those 6 and see if you remember what we did last time. And then what we'll do is we're going to look at our new set of notes. So looking at letter B, we're looking for two numbers that multiply together, give us 10, add up to 7, and that would be 2 and 5. So we have x plus 2 and x plus 5. For the next one, two numbers that multiply together give us -12, add up to -1. That would be -4 and 3. So we have x minus 4 and x plus 3. For letter E, we're looking for two numbers that multiply together, give us -15, add up to -2. That would be -5 and 3. So we have x minus 5 and x plus 3. For letter F, two numbers that multiply together give us -3, add up to -2. That would be -3 and 1. So we have x minus 3 and x plus 1. For letter H, we're looking at each one of these. We see that they have a 3 in common. So we first factor out a 3, and we get x squared plus 6x plus 9. And then we're looking for two numbers that multiply together, give us 9, add up to 6, and that would be 3 and 3. So because those are the same, what I'm going to do is write it as a square binomial. So that would be x plus 3 squared. For letter I, they all have an x in common. So I factor out an x, and I have an x squared plus 6x plus 8. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply together, give me 8, add up to 6, and that would be 2 and 4. So what I have is x plus 2 and x plus 4. So now what we're going to do is move on to leading coefficients. And why we did that first review is because when we're looking at these terms, they're going to look similar to the ones that we did before because they have a leading coefficient. But unlike the last ones, all of these are not divisible by 2. So whenever we have a leading coefficient in front of the x squared, but it doesn't have a GCF, then what we're going to do is we're going to factor it using the x, but it's going to be slightly different. What we're going to do is we're going to combine our A and C values. So A times C. So in this case, the 2 times 3 gives us the 6. We're keeping the linear term the same, which is the 7. And we're looking for two numbers that multiply together and give us 6, but they add up to 7. And that would be 6 and 1. Now, because we combine them by multiplication, we're now going to separate them. And if we combine them by multiplication, how we separate them is division. So we're going to now divide them by 2. So that gives us the x plus 6 over 2, which is 3. Now, with the next one, we have 1 over 2, but 1 is not divisible by 2, so we call it bottoms up. We bring the bottom to the top, and that gives us the 2x plus 1. Now, just to clarify why this works, is if we were to FOIL it out, remember with FOIL, first outer, inner, last, x times 2x is 2x squared. X times 1 gives us x. 3 times 2x gives us 6x. 3 times 1 gives us 3. We see that x plus 6x is 7x. We end up with 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. And that right there, notice, is our original problem. So even though this seems a little weird, it does actually give us the factored form. And why it's useful is because it combines the 2 and the 3, which makes it useful just finding one number instead of trying to figure out what multiplies to 2, what multiplies to 3, what adds to 7. That makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out, but there is another method, guess and check, where you're just guessing and checking to see if it works. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the X method because I think it provides a little bit easier way of solving these problems with factoring. So let's do a few examples. So for letter A, we're going to multiply the 2 and the 5, and that gives us 10. And our linear term is 7. So two numbers that multiply together give us 10, add up to 7 would be 2 and 5. Our leading coefficient is 2, so now we're going to separate by dividing by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then what we have is the 5 halves. Now notice that this is not a fraction. That's why we're getting rid of the fraction with the bottoms up. We're going to bring the bottom to the top. And we have x plus 1 and 2x plus 5. Notice that 2x squared is our leading term. X times 2x gives us the 2x squared. So we know we did it correctly. So for letter B, 3 times 3 gives us a 9. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together, give us a 9, add up to negative 10. That would be negative 9 and negative 1. Because the leading coefficient is 3, I'm going to divide each of those by 3. The first one goes in evenly. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so that's x minus 3. The second one does not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 3, I'm going to bring it to the top, and I get x minus 3 and 3x minus 1. For letter C, I'm going to do the same thing. 2 times 2 gives me 4. So two numbers that multiply together give me 4, add up to 5. That would be 4 and 1. The leading coefficient is 2, so I'm going to divide each of these by 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2, so x plus 2. And then what we have is x plus 1 half. Once again, our denominator is 2. We're going to bring it up. So it becomes x plus 2 and 2x plus 1. Pause the video and try those next three and see how you do. 3 times negative 2 gives us negative 6, negative 5. So two numbers that multiply together give us negative 6. Add up to negative 5 would be negative 6, positive 1. We divide each of them by 3. And so that gives us x minus 2 and x plus 1/3. Because the 3 is right here, we're going to bring it up, and we have x minus 2 and 3x plus 1. Now, eventually, you're going to get so good at this that you're going to see the 1/3, and you could even skip this step right here and go straight to writing it as 3x plus 1 once you get comfortable with this. So for the next one, what we have is 3 times 4, and that right there gives us 12. And so what we have are two numbers that multiply together, give us 12, add up to -8, and that would be -2 and -6. Because our leading coefficient is 3, we're going to divide each of these by 3, and that gives us x minus 2/3. And then we have the x minus 2. The 3 is in the denominator. We're going to bring it up, and that gives us 3x minus 2 and x minus 2. So for letter F, 2 times 15 gives us -30 and 7. So two numbers that multiply together give us -30. Add up to 7 would be 10 and -3. And so because our leading coefficient is 2, we divide each of these by 2, and we get x plus 5, and we get x minus 3/2. The 2 we could bring up, and we have x plus 5 and 2x minus 3.